Ukraine's flag raised once more in Kherson, but after Russia's retreat from the southern city, an Eastern European winter looms, as does the question of what next.
There will be some recuperation over the winter, some building up of offensive strength. It will take time to grow new brigades. We have a Russia which has taken a significant defeat, but still holds on to 3 times as much of Ukraine as Ukraine has taken back this year. So it might be in the Donbass, or it may be in the south again, perhaps to try and break the land bridge between Crimea and Russia. So there are probably 3 big reasons why Russia will fight harder for the Donbass. And the first is they have occupied elements of it since 2014. So you have in the Donbass not just Russian forces, but also separatists who live in Ukraine, and they will fight harder for territory they regard as their own. And we should also recognize that in a parallel structure to the Russian army are the various militia forces, such as the Wagner group, which in many cases are establishing themselves not just as armed forces, but actually as businesses in the Donbass. And then you have the simple logistic fact that the Donbass backs onto Russian territory, and there are shorter, stronger lines of communication running back into Russia for people and equipment and supplies.
Russia's invasion began in late February. This will be the war's first real taste of winter. So how might the season shape the battle lines currently being redrawn?
So there's a bit of a mythology about the winter in Ukraine, and it's not going to cause the war to stop. For example, we may recall from Afghanistan, there is a wet season which is underway now and has some weeks to go, where actually the movement of tanks across country really does become quite difficult. And then the freeze will set in, and the fields will become harder, some of the rivers will freeze. And therefore, in some aspects, maneuver, particularly armoured maneuver, becomes easier.
Russian troops from Siberia may be weather-hardened, but General Barrons says their equipment is poor, and for others, even worse.
Some Russian families have had to find the equivalent of $1,000 to equip their sons with uniforms and kit to go to war in the winter. So I think actually in terms of equipment and clothing, the balance of advantage right now is with Ukraine.
With fewer daylight hours, both sides' exposure to drone surveillance could drop. But is it that simple?
The more expensive military drones clearly can have night vision capability, but then there are 2 other ways people are looking at this battlefield. The first is from space, using cameras and radar, and both sides will be doing that. That isn't troubled really by darkness. And the way the Ukrainian side in particular have used citizens with their phones as sensors, essentially dropping information into a database via their smartphone, operating over Elon Musk's Starlink.
Whatever comes next, Ukraine needs more weaponry to sustain it.
And Ukraine really doesn't have a clock on this. It just wants to take its country back. And so if it takes the whole of 2023 into 2024, into 2025, well, big wars can take a really, really long time. And that essentially means connecting Ukrainian manpower, people, to Western industry and wallets.
Tom Sable's Forces News.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.